Wargaming with Jared. Let's build an army.
Hello YouTube, Jared here again with another video for you. It is July 2026 and I am putting the finishing touches on my 7th army this year, and I have plans to paint a couple more. So I figured, a lot of people ask me, how do I paint so many models and so many armies in a year? How do I actually get projects done? And so I figured, since I'm finishing my 7th army and starting on armies 8 and 9 and some expansions, I should kind of give you some of my secret tips and tricks. So I think there's 5 things that really set you up for success to actually finish armies. So if you're just trying to finish one army or trying to do multiples like I am, I have some tips and tricks I think that can help you. And so stay tuned. I'm going to give you 5 things that I think that really set me up for success and help me succeed. But the armies I've painted so far, January, February was finishing Age of Sigmar. So I painted up some Lumineth and I painted up my Ogres. And then later in the year, I finished getting Ultramarines past 2,000 points. Finished the big Tau project that I started last year. Getting that to almost 2,500 points. And then Necrons are now 2,500 points. Eldari are over 2,000 points, and then I am putting the final touches on the last unit for my Imperial Fists. And so, knocking out these armies off. A couple of these projects, a lot of them I did start last year, but I am actually finishing projects and getting models moved. And then I've got roughly 2,000 points of Chaos Space Marines that are all primed and dry brushed and ready to go. So I've got almost 100 models for that army. So I got a big project lined up. And then I've got some Ultramarines that I've been kit bashing and playing with to expand that army. And then I'm getting ready to start, if this is army, let's see, this would be army 8 for the year. Army 9 for the year will be the Tyranids. And so I'm going to use the Tyranids here to represent a lot of the tips and tricks on how I actually get stuff done. I realized that army is a perfect catalyst of all of the things that I've learned in the last couple years to actually do a better job finishing projects and not just starting them, abandoning them, and moving on to the next project. So it's not just pure willpower. There's a lot of things you can do to set yourself up for success. So without further ado, when it comes to how to paint and finish an army, the first thing to do is watch how you're defining an army. So an army can be 2,000 points. That's oftentimes the standard I use, but not always. So my Lumineth force and my Ogre army are both just under 2,000 points. And then Tau and Necrons and Ultramarines are definitely over 2,000 points. And so it really depends, what do you want to paint? What feels done to you? What feels like a complete army? And so you alone can determine that, especially because every 3 months, the point values are going to change. And so if you paint to exactly 2,000 points, there's a 50-50 chance that by the time you're done painting, it will be more than 2,000 or less than 2,000. And so oftentimes, best thing to do is paint what you want. If you're going to be mostly playing 1,000 points, paint to 1,500 so you have some options. If you're going to be playing 2,000 point games, paint to 2,200 or 2,500, whatever you feel comfortable, whatever you actually want to paint. And so don't be a stickler on points. That's really the first point I have for you. And then really the sub point on that is don't try to paint all 2,000 points at once. I've done that. I did that with Tau. That was a mistake. Necrons, I've learned my lesson, and you space it out. And so paint 500 to 1,500 points or 1,000 points at a time. If you're going to do a 2,000 point army, you want to do 2,000 points and then stop at the 1,000 point mark, paint another army, and then come back. It is much better than trying to constantly push yourself to keep painting another squad of infantry when you don't really want to. And so the best thing you can really do is take breaks and paint other things. The secret to finishing an army is don't just paint that army. And so as counterintuitive as that is, it really does help you stay consistent in painting, not burn yourself out, and then actually finish armies. And so I'm often painting 2 armies at a time. So now that Imperial Fists are done, they're going to get replaced with the Tyranids because I'm already doing Chaos Space Marines. And so having 2 armies at a time to paint, really, that's the best way to do it. So let me show you the Tyranid army I'm lining up to paint, and that will illustrate my other 4 points. And we're back. So tip 1 is don't force yourself to paint 2,000 points in a row. That's setting yourself up for burnout. I like rotating between 2 or 3 armies. If that's not your jam, at least give yourself something else to paint, maybe a model from a previous army or something non-Warhammer related, just to give yourself a break so you don't burn out. So that's the first tip. Tip 2 through 5 are all represented right here by the Tyrannid army I'm about to start. And so the first one is deal hunt. Obviously, if you know me, you know I'm talking Hachette magazine. I'm talking Battle Force boxes. There are ways to get magazines. There are ways to get models at a much cheaper price. So instead of paying $40 for a hero or $60 for a squad, Hachette is $17 an issue. And even on the secondhand market, like an eBay, you can find a magazine for $30, $40 sometimes instead of $60. So hunt for deals. Battle Force boxes are your friend. When it comes to getting new stuff, try to find a deal and don't pay MSRP. Especially if you're trying to afford multiple armies. Goodness gracious, don't just go out and pay MSRP and buy 2,000 points. Pace yourself. Use something like a magazine to pace yourself. Obviously, I'm a big fan for them. And you know, get what you can, build the base of your army in whatever discounts you can find. On top of that, do your research on the army. Almost every 40K army has something that's very easy to kit bash or expand upon. And so there are orc kits that kit bash into other orc kits. There are Gene Stealer kits that kit bash into other Gene Stealer kits. Goodness knows so many Space Marines can be turned into other Space Marines if you just have the body and the backpack. So do your research on the kits. In the Tyrannid's case, the Winged Tyrant, which was the premium issue here, which only winds up being like $60 for this big cool guy, has enough bits to build 2 models instead of 1. You're just missing a body. And so I went online and found somebody to 3D print me an extra body. And so that doubles the amount of models that I get out of this little pile of screw. I also have a miniature of the month that I picked up, and I'll be able to use that if I happen to have somebody that I want to change out parts on, or add another little guy to one of the big guys' bases. I haven't decided what he's going to be for yet, but it'll come in handy for something. And oftentimes, if you find a lot that's 9 models and missing a model, it'll be a lot cheaper. And so if you have a backup model, sometimes you can use that to supplement. Didn't work out in this case, but there have been multiple times where I've bought an incomplete squad and then be able to kit bash or source the missing model and save a ton of money. And that brings me to the fourth thing, and that's buying secondhand lots. This right here, I did not build. This was a secondhand lot. Don't remember how much I paid for it, but I remember it not being a lot of money, and it wound up being a good deal. But the thing that's really important about secondhand lots, what you're looking for is somebody who's already pre-assembled a lot of infantry. If you can find infantry lots, especially for armies that are infantry heavy, you will save yourself so much time assembling little tiny models over and over again. Skaven comes to mind. I have 120 Skaven clan rats. I did not build all of those. I refurbished half of them. I would have lost my mind if I had had to have built 120 of them. But the fact is, half of them at least were restores. That is such a burnout preventer. So highly recommend when you're looking at secondhand models. Oftentimes, half the fun of the hobby is building the big, cool heroes like this, or the Parasite of Mortrix is in here. There's a Winged Tyrant. There's all kinds of fun stuff, right? I'm looking forward to building this, but I'm not looking forward to building 30, I think they're called Hormagaunts or Termagants, or they're little, the little basic swarm guys. And so having half of it already done for me, and I got to save some money because it was a used lot, is a win-win all around. And this lot actually happened to be primed. Oftentimes, I've had to buy lots and strip them. I have videos on how to strip models and what products to use and how it works. The short version is isopropyl alcohol is your best friend, especially if you can find something to agitate it and kind of help it along. But whatever you can do in terms of secondary lots to get model count can be really helpful. Armies I would recommend buying a secondary lot on, especially would be things like Sisters, Gene Stealers, Astra Militarum, Adeptus Mechanicus. Anything where you have lots of models that are not worth a lot of points and you can get whatever savings you can. Just about the best way to build most of those lots is to start from somebody else who gave up halfway. So if you can find somebody who's given up halfway on a lot that's something that you want to get done, you'll do a lot better if you don't have to be the one to assemble them, because if you have to assemble 100 plus models, you'll be kind of tired of them before you get your paintbrush. So having something like that to give you a little boost is nice. And so you figured out the points, you found a good deal on models, you've gotten a little bit of 3D printing or kit bashing bits to kind of give yourself some extra points. You found a trade lot to give you some extra infantry so you don't have to build your infantry yourself. And on that note, I do have Genestealer Cult and Astra Militarum pre-built and ready to go once those armies happen later this year and probably next year. The final thing you do is you do actually wind up buying yourself some of the kits that you really love. And so I really wanted a Death Leaper and a Lictor. I think these were actually Christmas presents, if I remember right, so I didn't even pay for those. And then Biovore I definitely did buy. And so having a couple of models that you did buy, maybe you didn't get the best deal on them, you only got the 10-15% off from your friendly local game store or whatever it was, or maybe you asked for it for your birthday present, which I know the Death Leaper, I want to say, was a birthday present. Whatever you do, getting a couple of kits that you really like. Because oftentimes when you're deal shopping, or magazine sourcing, or kit bashing, you're not getting the kits you want, you're getting the kits you can afford. And it's great to have an affordable army. I'm all about affordable armies. But every army should have at least one model that you bought for you. And so for me, that's going to be my Biovore, my Death Leaper, and I happen to have also got a Lictor too. So having models that you are genuinely excited to build and paint will make the rest of the army more fun. And so that's the final and probably most important tip, is don't burn yourself out on the building and sourcing, but then also put something fun in there for you. And so what I'm going to do is, as I'm building the infantry stuff that's a little bit heavier and a lot as exciting, I'll treat myself and reward myself. So build a bunch of this stuff, then grab a box and build something that I'm excited to build. And then build a few more sprues full of infantry, and then grab the Death Leaper and build him. And so use the process as a reward for the process. And so I think that's one of the best things you can do, because the goal is you want to get everything built and primed, and I like to do a white dry brush so it's easier to pick out details. You want to get to that step and still be excited to paint, because I've transparently had armies where I got everything ready and then I was sick of looking at it before I did that. When I first started in on my Age of Sigmar projects, that happened over and over again, where I'd source everything, build everything, and then I'd look at it and go, and I am already sick of this army. And then I'd set it aside for a while and paint something else. And then I came back. I've gotten good at coming back and finishing armies, but there have been several armies I did not want to paint, and I forced myself to paint them, and I try not to force myself to paint. But if you can space things out, if you can rotate. So right now my painting shelf is full of Chaos Space Marines. If I paint 100 models or 2,000 points of Chaos trim, I'm going to be miserable by the end. And so Tyranids is going to be a perfect sampler. I was going to do Black Templar. I think I mentioned that in another video. But Black Templar and Chaos Space Marines are both the same paint colors and the same body types, and I realized that would be a really dumb idea. And so I'm being realistic with myself. If I try to paint Black Templars and Chaos Space Marines at the same time, that's going to burn me out and discourage me. Tyranids, on the other hand, though, I'm planning to paint these entirely in contrast paints and pick out a few details and then do some dry brushing techniques. I got some new basing bits. You might have noticed earlier when I showed my army, every army is a new basing scheme. That's another thing I do to just kind of give myself a little bit of burnout prevention, is everybody gets more or less a different basing scheme, whether it's different colored flowers like that Lumineth here. Still got him right here. So he's on the green flock with the pink flowers, or I have more of a kind of an urban base for the Imperial Fists, the orange sand for the Tau, the ogres have the snow bases. And so whatever you can do to keep learning new things, trying new things, buying new basing bits, that will make the whole process feel fun. And so I really encourage you, don't just do the same thing over and over again. That's how you burn out. That's how you never finish your army. If you want to finish multiple armies, the best thing you can do is give yourself variety, give yourself good deals, and then find little things along the way that really just get you excited. I've been eagerly awaiting to paint this Death Leaper since my birthday in January, but he's been kind of sitting there tempting me to get the Tyranids out, and it's time to get the Tyranids out. And so super excited about this project. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope these tips help you to finish the armies that you're planning on painting. So if you wouldn't mind, leave in the comments what army you're planning on painting next and what your goal is and how quickly you think you can finish it. And then likes and comments and follows and all that kind of jazz really does help this channel grow. So appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.